Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us for our next video interview. Today I'm joined by Morteza Ashrafi-Nik, Principal Engineer at the Building and Services and IT Engineering Experts RED. Is it RED or RED? I don't know. RED. Also joining us is the wonderful Mark Fenton, who's Product Manager at Data Center Digital Twin Specialist Future Facilities. Hi Mark, hi Morteza, how are you getting on?
Hi James, thanks very much for having us. Very good, very well.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, no, great, thanks, great. Now, before we get on to talking about the wonders of digital twins, would you like to briefly introduce yourselves and your roles at RED and Future Facilities?
Sure.
Mark, if you want to go first.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Mark Fenton. I'm the product manager, one of the product managers at Future Facilities. And we've been, since we began back in 2004, really pioneering the use of digital twins in the data center industry, from design all the way through to operations.
Hi everyone, my name is Morteza. Let me start with RED. So RED in general provides technical expertise to deliver market-leading building services and ICT infrastructure engineering solution. We work with global clients and we deliver carbon and cost saving solutions that helps to accelerate a sustainable transformation by using data and advanced digital tools to bring about the real value. What I do at RED, I'm a head of building physics engineer, building physics team, and our team is a group of talented specialists with shared vision of delivering great results for our clients. What differentiates us from other companies is our capabilities using digital and computational tools that allows us to transfer vast amount of information into sustainable pathway for data-driven businesses. Tools such as computational fluid dynamics, thermodynamics, energy modeling, which helps us to bring a fundamental understanding of physics to improve the design of internal, external equipments and the built environment.
Excellent, thank you both. Now, both RED and Future Facilities work closely together. Can one of you just explain the nature of your partnership and when it began and how it's evolved?
Sure. So RED's probably been one of our longest standing customers. So we provide the software that allows you to create these digital twins, such as the one I'm sort of in. And RED have been using that technology pretty much since day one. Now, we also kind of work together closely on projects. So Morteza and his team have been working with us recently on an enterprise site. So the relationship is not just of kind of client customer, but also kind of technical partners as well.
Awesome. You got anything to add to that, Morteza?
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Brilliant. So for those that may not be too familiar with data centers and how they can enable and empower digital twins and how they can enable and empower data centers, what is the starting point of the digital twin in the data center story, and where are we now?
Yeah, sure. So digital twins have been around in other industries for a long time. So you sort of recognize them in aerospace and automotive, where companies will create essentially a computer model. So if we take General Electric, they'll create a computer model of their aircraft engines, and they'll be tracking a huge amount of data. The numbers are insane. A general flight, they'll be getting a terabyte of data. And they're using this to look for anomalies, looking at maintenance patterns, but also sort of future predicting how the engines are going to respond to certain conditions. And they've been sort of well known and well used for many years. And we sort of sought that opportunity to say, hey, why don't we use this within the data center industry? They're very complex systems. There's lots of moving parts. And can we offer people who design and own data centers that same experience of owning a digital clone of their data center and be able to use it to not only understand where they are today, maybe they have some issues and they want to understand why they have them, but really what the power it gives you is to look forward and be proactive and say, I'm about to make some change to my data center. Maybe it's a new installation, or I've got some maintenance coming up, or I've sold a cage to my latest customer. And I want to know, before I switch on all this IT, what's going to happen to my facility? How is it going to perform? And the digital twin gives you all of that power. So you basically load your changes in, run the simulation, and then it gives you that insight and that foresight into how things are going to change in the future. And it means that as a team, you can identify, actually, we might need to do some work here before we go down this route, or you can pivot and say, actually, a much better decision for efficiency or capacity or risk or costs is to maybe move it over here, or come up with other solutions. So it gives you that foresight into how things are going to change in the future.
Excellent. So would you say it's more useful in the construction phase or maintenance operations?
I'd say traditionally they've been used in design. If you go back maybe 5 years, if you were looking at a new design and you wanted to know, how is it going to operate, and that's something that Morteza's team would have done. Looking at a new design from maybe from the drawings upwards, and you assemble all these parts, the cooling system, the power system, and you want to know how is it going to operate before you start building the thing, because once it's built and you're in the testing, it's much harder to make changes. So traditionally the digital twin would have been used in design, but actually what we're seeing now in the last few years is that once we create these models, these digital twins, and the data center is built, we can hand them over to the operators, and the owner operator then gets control. And as they start moving in their pieces, which are always a little bit different from the design, they can actually see the impact of those changes and own the decisions. And then the business is much closer to understanding the impact of those day-to-day changes. So, yeah. To answer your question, it's moving into operational space, connecting these digital twins to all the data that's available, all your live monitoring, all your asset inventories, means that they stay kind of reflective of reality. And then what you do is you then say, right, what's coming down the pipe in next week, next month, next 3 months, and then allows you just to be prepared as a business that you're gonna keep going and keep redundancy, resiliency going without any issues cropping up.
Yeah, excellent. And are there any, would you say, misconceptions that still prevail in the data center sector about what digital twins are and how digital twins can help data centers?
Shall I answer that?
Yeah, go, please.
Well, it seems some people think it's a very costly process in general, but digital twin can be very highly cost effective for data centers and a quick return on investment. Many issues, as Mark mentioned, many issues can be captured and highlighted by digital twin model, which can have a significant impact on operational costs. Digital twin is not just installing sensors on a performing in real-time service. In fact, that's not a good representative of actual digital twin model. A true digital twin has several layers of digital information, ranging from original CAD drawing to detailed data around each individual service. The goal of digital twin is to simulate each crack ACU service and predict how it would behave in certain situation and environment.
Fantastic. Now, switching on to the topic of the day, coronavirus and COVID-19, which came like a wrecking ball through the world in 2020, sparking a lot of fears about the impact of the data center sector, operations, construction, maintenance. How have your respective 2020s been in a year unlike any other in the data center sector?
Yeah, I can kick off there. I think you're right. When it started, there was a lot of trepidation around how the data centers were going to respond. Certainly from a sort of service and software provider, we were worried about budgets, projects being delayed or even stopped completely. And actually what we found is, firstly, as an industry, the data centers have responded, I think, phenomenally well. All the people involved, if you think about the increase in demand overnight pretty much for the services that the data centers provide is phenomenal. And actually they've responded pretty well. You know, most people after a couple of days of setting up in your home office, you've managed to kind of get back to business as usual. So from a business perspective, actually we've just seen an incredible growth, and maybe that's been sparked by the fact that there's now this bigger demand on data centers, but also the digital twin is almost perfect, because if you're unable to go to site for whatever reason, the fact that you've got this virtual playground essentially that replicates what you have means you can still make those critical business decisions without having to all travel in and take a look around and make walk the site. So it's still enabling really remote teams who are spread all over the world to come together to a single place and look at this digital twin and say, right, this is the business impact that we've got. Maybe you're lucky enough that you've sold to Zoom and they want to add an extra 300 racks in for all their new video calls. You can make that decision. You can drop it into the digital twin, run the simulations, and say, we can support this and make the sale. So yeah, we've seen, even though it's been, from a personal standpoint, it's difficult because we lose those connections, and we're doing far too many of these kind of conversations. But from a business point of view, from the industry as a whole, I think everyone's seeing it's incredibly busy, and we've been resilient in the face of quite a crazy demand. Yeah.
No, absolutely. It's excellent to hear, though. Morteza?
I would say, despite COVID-19 and challenges that it has brought to us, I think so far 2020 has been a great year for us. We've grown significantly based on businesses, opportunities came through. In order to meet demands and support the remote working from home, etc. During this time, a lot of new strategies were introduced at RED to tackle any challenges. Strategies such as new recruitment strategies or redeployment of resource across operational sectors. In fact, RED actually support stuff by introducing a health and wellness initiatives and which was introduced in May 2020 globally. Employee relation strategies have been improved by ensuring well-being and connected workforce through the different programs, for instance, virtual quiz events, etc. But overall, I think it's been great, as Mark mentioned it. Data center business has been growing ever since the lockdown. And it's worth mentioning in terms of working from home and deploying remote working across 8 offices, we actually managed to get everyone back on the track within 2 weeks. In fact, 80% within the first 2 days, which was great. So yeah, it's been a great year so far.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. The agility that the sector has demonstrated has been tremendous to see. Now, you mentioned, Mark and Morteza, a number of projects, or particular projects in particular, that you guys have collaborated on in 2020. Are you able to shed, without obviously going into as much detail as you're able to, the sort of scope and the sort of timescales and what you were able to achieve despite all these challenges that we've mentioned?
Well, I can talk. So Morteza, I think, can talk about his particular project that we worked on together in the UK. But I think one of the sort of reasons that I think this chat was quite important is that when we had the corona pandemic start, as a business, we actually have a few engineers ourselves that go out and do these assessments, and we were thinking actually well, those aren't going to happen anymore because we can't travel, and actually we were still able to provide huge amount of support remotely by the fact that we can build these digital twins without actually necessarily going into site. So especially if they're well run and well documented and they have lots of information, maybe a good asset register, or they have lots of monitoring, that you can actually produce these digital twins totally remotely and then offer value to the clients. So the sort of scopes would be the types of projects that we've kind of already mentioned, like big capacity installations or high density deployments where the facility staff are walking around thinking, well, we're not sure whether we can handle these. These are huge cabinets with high kilowatt, 10, 20 kilowatt racks, and we're worried about when we switch them on. So let's do the due diligence, let's create ourselves a digital twin and run those kind of operations. So there's those kind of big capacity deployments. There are other things like just the maintenance schedule. I'm going to turn off this cooling unit to do some maintenance. What's going to happen to the data center? Have I got enough cooling in my other units that I don't get local hotspots and possibly losing IT? And in the pandemic, where it's very difficult for sort of knee-jerk reactions to get spot cooling in, or if something goes down, to get maintenance crew instantly, it's quite difficult. So doing that kind of proactive testing, using the digital twin as a test bed for any of your future maintenance scenarios is another thing that we've kind of been involved in. So actually our engineers are still super busy, even though we're not going to site as often. And I think that's kind of one of the big pluses of being a digital environment, that you can do it kind of anywhere.
Yeah, excellent. It's like a proper Swiss Army knife, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Morteza, do you want to go a little bit more detail about the project that you worked on specifically with Mark?
Sure. As Mark mentioned it, before we actually going into maintenance and dealing, with maintenance aspects on the site, we consider all type of scenarios in our simulations, scenarios such as mechanical, electrical failures, as well as maintenance scenarios. So we've got a very good idea if any of those scenarios happens before even attending a site, and that can actually fit into our design and allow additional capacity if it's needed for resilience site. I think one of the challenges that we faced during the lockdown is obviously accessing the site and carrying out the site surveys. Obviously, employees are the biggest assets, and their health is top of priority for us. Hence, during this time, RED has developed a very comprehensive risk assessment tool around COVID-19 that considers all potential risk at the site, which provides solution to tackle and overcome any possible risks. Thanks to COVID-19 risk assessment tool and provided kit, we actually managed to carry out a couple of site surveys during lockdown without any impact on site attendees' health, as well as within allocated timescale. So, considering that risk assessment tool, it allowed us to access a site and carry out what we needed to carry out.
Yeah, awesome. You always find a way. Now, in many ways, like in many other areas of technology and the world more broadly, it seems like from this discussion that coronavirus has sort of accelerated existing trends, or sort of forced the issue. Talk about more people being sort of forced to adopt digital twin technology because they were very restricted by stay-at-home restrictions and quarantine measures. Looking ahead beyond COVID, I know we talked briefly about the vaccine before this interview. There seems to be light at the end of the tunnel. It's surely your hope that the progress that has been made in terms of adoption will persist. How optimistic are you about this?
Yeah, so I think you're right that it's accelerated people's kind of journey to the digital transformation that they're having in their own businesses, and so the digital twin has kind of neatly stepped in. But I feel that even when we're hopefully all allowed to go back to work, there's so much that it provides. That even when you're at site, you still can't sort of look into that future of what's going to happen next. So I feel like yes, people will be able to literally be physically at the data center and hopefully meet in groups and talk about business decisions together. But actually having a central platform, which is a digital version or a digital replica, allowing them to discuss where the business is going to move forward and then actually implement it in the digital twin and see the impact. I think that's kind of here to stay, and certainly we're seeing that the people who are trying out in one site are now rolling that out across the enterprises. So I think we're sort of expecting that once we're allowed to travel, the things that will start up again will be those site visits, those assessments that we do as part of the service that we provide and the service that Morteza's group would provide, where you take the digital twin and you just you're measuring it against the real site and taking those measurements. So I think those things will return, and hopefully, you know, the old client lunch here and there would be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm missing some of the benefits that being a journalist can give you as well, but
I'm sure you are.
We'll leave that there. Morteza, anything that your crystal ball is telling you about data center sector in 2021?
I think you know, running simulations, developing digital twin models, all these type of modelings are very, very useful. And the reason is, as Mark mentioned, there's a possibility things like COVID-19 happens and you won't be able to access sites. So having that sort of several layers of digital information handy is very helpful. But what I would say, I will highlight two points that I would take away from COVID-19 is, you know, when things, you know, incidents or events like this happens, act fast and invest in the right technology. Without the technology that we had in place, we weren't able to meet the demands and deadlines. And the second point I would like to highlight, I would say create a strong workplace culture as employees being our biggest brand advocates. Keeping staff engaged with the company vision and goals would definitely help through the difficult time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more on that particular point, Morteza. It's a great observation. Well, I think that just about rounds up our conversation today, Mark and Morteza. Thank you so much for joining us. It was great to talk, and I look forward to doing this again sometime in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.